You've heard it a million times, right? Drink 8 glasses of water a day. But what if I told you one of the most famous pieces of health advice on the planet is, well, basically a myth? Let's dive in and see what the science actually says about hydrating the smart way. So let's start with the big one. This number, 8 glasses a day, it's everywhere. It feels like a fundamental law of health, doesn't it? But where did it come from? Is there any real science behind this magic number? Let's find out. Okay, right off the bat, here's the bombshell. A huge, comprehensive review in the American Journal of Physiology went looking for the hard evidence, the scientific studies to back up the 8 by 8 rule. And guess what they found? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So you gotta wonder, right? If modern science can't find any proof for it, where in the world did this rule come from? To figure that out, we've got to do a little bit of historical detective work. Well, the idea that water is some kind of cure-all goes way back to something called hydrotherapy in the 1800s. But the modern myth? That seems to come from a recommendation made way back in 1945. But here is the catch, the part that everybody just forgot. The original advice explicitly said that most of the fluid we need is already in the food we eat. And this is such a crucial point. We get our fluids from all sorts of places, not just a plain glass of water. Think about it. Soups, juicy fruits, vegetables, and yes, even your morning coffee or tea. I know, we've all heard that caffeine dehydrates you, but for most people, the science shows the diuretic effect just isn't strong enough to cancel out the water you're taking in. So if we're going to throw out this rigid, one-size-fits-all rule, what do we replace it with? Well, the good news is we don't have to look far. Turns out we've already got an incredibly sophisticated hydration guide built right into our bodies. Your body has this incredible internal sensor system. The very moment the concentration of your blood changes, even just a tiny bit, your brain gets a signal and says, hey, time for a drink. It's not some desperate warning light flashing red. Think of it more like a gentle, super efficient reminder from your body's personal assistant that it's just about time to top up. And hey, if you want a simple, real-time visual check throughout the day, this is probably the easiest one there is. If your urine is dark, that's just your body saying, hey, I'm conserving water here, so you could probably use a drink. But if it's a pale, straw-colored yellow, you're golden. That's the sweet spot. Okay, so we've established that the how much is pretty much a myth. But what about the how? Believe it or not, the way you drink your water can be just as important as how much you drink. You know that feeling? You chug a huge bottle of water after a workout, and then 5 minutes later, you're running to the bathroom. Well, that's a real thing called the bolus response. Your body senses this sudden flood of liquid, and to protect itself from a dangerous electrolyte imbalance, it just hits an emergency flush button and gets rid of a huge chunk of it. So what does this all mean in the real world? It's simple. Sipping is way more effective than chugging. When you drink slowly and steadily throughout the day, you're giving your body the time it needs to actually absorb and use the fluid, instead of just sending it straight through the system. All right, so we've covered how you drink. Now let's talk about when you drink. Because timing your water intake can be a pretty powerful tool, especially if you're thinking about managing your weight. Check out the results from this study. Researchers had people drink about a cup of water right before they ate. And what happened? The group that drank water beforehand naturally ate significantly less food. But here's the kicker. They reported feeling just as full and satisfied as the people who ate more. Pretty cool, huh? And speaking of studies, here's a wild fact that just shows how tricky measuring the human body can be. In one experiment, a standard body composition machine completely misinterpreted the weight from a simple glass of water. It didn't see it as water, it logged the change as an increase in pure body fat. It's a fantastic reminder to take those single-point measurements with a grain of salt. All right, here's another super simple factor you can easily control: the temperature of your water. It might seem small, but choosing between hot and cold can actually make a difference depending on what you're trying to do. So let's say you're about to hit the gym or go for a run. In that scenario, cold water is definitely your friend. It actually helps lower your core body temperature, which can help fight off fatigue and might just let you push yourself a little harder for a little longer. Okay, now let's flip it. Let's say your goal is to help with digestion, maybe after a big meal. In that case, warm water is probably the better choice. It can be more soothing for your digestive tract and can even help enhance what's called gut motility. Basically, it just gently helps keep things moving along smoothly. So it's time to put all of this together.
The real goal here is to stop thinking about a single, rigid rule and start using all these different ideas as tools to build a personal hydration plan that actually works for you.
The big takeaway here is that your hydration needs aren't static, they're dynamic. They change every single day. You have to ask yourself, how active was I? What's the weather like? What did I eat today? All of these things play a huge role in how much fluid you actually need. And just to show you how dramatic these factors can be, get this. When you go to a high altitude, you lose water through breathing literally twice as fast as you do at sea level. That alone could mean you need an extra liter and a half of fluid every day just to stay even. So, at the end of the day, smart hydration isn't about meticulously counting glasses. It's about tuning in. It's about paying attention to thirst, checking in on yourself, and using these tools to give your body what it needs right when it needs it. So, the real question isn't how many glasses you're going to drink tomorrow, it's how are you going to start listening?